A chaotic and joyous celebration marks the official repeal of Prohibition in the USA in 1933. An orphaned child who was adopted by an aviation squadron is seen writing vengeful messages on bombs that read, "For my mom, for my dad." A poignant 1992 image capturing the interaction between the child of a Ku Klux Klan member and a black state trooper. The execution of opium traders takes place in China in 1935, just a few years before the outbreak of the Opium Wars. A male chastity belt from the 16th century. In Naples in 1963, sailors from the Italian tall ship Amerigo Vespucci bid farewell to their wives. A 1959 photo capturing the participants of the famous Dyatlov Pass expedition heading into the snowy mist. It is their last known photograph before the tragic events, which remain one of the most mysterious mysteries of the 20th century. During a bombing raid in London in 1940, a man is found sleeping inside a sarcophagus. A destitute family during the Great Depression is shown living in a landfill in Illinois, 1939. A 1986 photograph from Ukraine shows a live child being found in the aftermath of the explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. During the Second World War, Irene Sendler covertly rescued 2,500 children by smuggling them out of a Nazi concentration camp. Native Americans in Oregon present a ceremonial salmon to a train conductor in 1940, prior to the destruction of their way of life by settlers. Captured and defeated, Wehrmacht generals stand in contemplation near the walls of the artillery-scarred Berlin Cathedral in 1945. A 1963 photo capturing Beatlemania, showing girls screaming, crying, and reaching out to their idols in pure ecstasy, barely able to hear the music over the noise. Gerard O'Mell, a renowned mountaineer famous for multiple ascents of Everest and other major summits, tragically died not on a mountain, but after falling from a 2-meter ladder while changing a light bulb in his own home. Waitress Ruth Lee, born in America, sunbathing on a beach alongside a Chinese flag in 1941. She did this to avoid being mistaken for Japanese during the anti-Japanese hysteria that swept the U.S. after Pearl Harbor. 18-year-old Keshia Thomas protecting a fallen man suspected of KKK ties from an angry crowd of protesters in Michigan, USA, 1996. The floating church of St. Nicholas the Wonder Worker was the only ship in the Russian Empire equipped with a fully functional Orthodox church on board in the 1910s. A 13-year-old boy from the Hitler Youth taken prisoner in 1945. An 18th century execution method in Turkey involved punishing a woman caught in a sexual act before marriage by sewing her into a sack with cats and drowning her. This is a welder's mask made of leather, dating back to the 1930s. Turtle racing was an event in the US during the 1920s. Although a turtle's body is not built for such weight and poses a risk of injury, there was a prevalent desire in America to make a show out of absolutely anything. Passers-by gathered to watch hero Audie Murphy as he visits a barber in Texas, 1946. Jewish women awaiting execution in occupied Latvia, December 1941. Starting in November 1941, the USSR imposed a tax on childlessness, which amounted to 6% of a salary. Martin Luther King Jr. is attacked by Jimmy Robinson, a member of the state's Rights Party, as King attempts to check into a hotel in the USA in 1965. An illustration depicts exactly how toilets were designed and used during the Middle Ages. Forget spy gadgets. In the 1960s, the CIA launched Operation Acoustic Cat, aiming to train cats to eavesdrop on Russian conversations. The first Agent Cat, equipped with a microphone in its ear, a transmitter in its collar, and an antenna in its tail, was deployed, but tragically died immediately after being hit by a taxi. A 1952 demonstration of inflatable bras, captioned as "the beginning of the era of deception." Following the deportation of the remaining inhabitants to Auschwitz in March 1943, bundles and bags of personal belongings litter the streets of the Krakow ghetto, as the victims were ordered to leave their possessions behind, being told they would no longer need them. A German field dentist at work during World War I. A display of pornographic images being shown in Beijing, 1874. A birthday celebration taking place on September 11th, 2001. East German border guards watched as tear gas was used to disperse protesters on the other side of the Berlin Wall in 1988. The crew members of the American B-29 bomber Enola Gay, the aircraft that dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima in 1945. During the 1960s in Istanbul, tavern owners employed porters whose specific job was to carry highly intoxicated regular customers back to their homes. Soviet T-34-85 tanks are lined up before the Battle of Berlin in 1945. Pedestrians pause to examine a newly released map of Europe following the conclusion of World War I in 1918. 5-year-old Warren running away from his mother to his father, Private Jack Bernard, shouting, "Wait for me, Dad," during the March of the British Columbia Regiment on October 1st, 1940. People ice skating on the frozen Niagara Falls in 1885. Animal rights defenders are pictured in 1954 Switzerland carrying an alpine ibex to be released back into the wild. German refugees are depicted crossing a destroyed bridge over the Elbe River in Germany on May 1st, 1945. This is Geronimo, the military leader of the Chiricahua Apache people, who spearheaded the resistance against the U.S. invasion of his tribe's lands for a quarter of a century. He was eventually compelled to surrender to the U.S. Army in 1886. John Lennon is pictured signing an autograph for his future murderer, Mark David Chapman, just hours before he was shot. The World Championship of Sitting on a Pole took place in the Netherlands in 1971. A massive beluga sturgeon caught in the Volga River in 1921. Children in New York City in 1939 protesting against daylight saving time, arguing it was unfair because they lost an hour of play. South Korean women weep while listening to President Syngman Rhee speak at a memorial service in Seoul on October 17, 1953. The ceremony honored the 33,964 South Koreans who were killed during the final year of the war. An ancient bloodletting tool from 1850. This practice was common in Europe and Russia until the mid-19th century and was considered a primary treatment for many ailments. A World War II propaganda poster illustrates Japan's active campaign against colonial powers, specifically targeting empires like Great Britain. A Jubilee visitor arrives at an American prisoner of war camp on April 20th, 1945. A black boy drinks from a water fountain designated for whites only in the USA, 1939. A men's urinal is pictured on the streets of France in the 1920s. A soldier of the Russian Imperial Army being punished with rods in a rear unit for disobeying an officer's order, 1916. A view of the United Arab Emirates, specifically Dubai, in 1976 before the discovery of oil reserves. A glimpse of passengers riding the metro in 1990. Drug lord and politician Pablo Escobar pictured attending the Colombian Congress in 1982. Casting for the lead role in the horror film The Shadow of the Cat, 1961. An American destroyer escorting a Soviet freighter transporting missiles out of Cuba following the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. Engineers and architects are pictured working in the era of design and drafting before the advent of computers, 1982. On June 3, 1980, a computer error falsely indicating a Soviet nuclear attack caused the United States to declare a nuclear alert. For a tense 10-minute window, the entire world stood on the precipice of nuclear war. Titanic survivors Marjorie and Charlotte Collier in New York, 1912. This is a photo of a Canadian hockey team from 1922. A protest against the Vietnam War in Italy, 1970. Students at Augustana College react emotionally to the announcement of the not guilty verdict in the O.J. Simpson murder trial on October 3, 1995. A young man smokes his final cigarette just moments before Japanese soldiers bury him alive in Nanjing, China, 1938. U.S. Historical Archives reveal a photo from 1912 in Port Royal, South Carolina, showing oyster cannery workers Josie, 6, Bertha, 6, and Sophie, 10, whose workdays started at 4 a.m. Pictured is an M1911 pistol equipped with an extended magazine and a brass shell casing collector. In the early days of World War I, planes lacked machine guns, so enemy pilots would shoot at each other with pistols. On December 13, 1937, the Nanking Massacre began as Japanese forces stormed the city and slaughtered the civilian population. Over the course of approximately 6 weeks, it is estimated that 300,000 people were killed and more than 20,000 women were raped. Lava flows engulfed a village located west of Vesuvius in 1944. U.S. Vice President Nelson Aldrich Rockefeller gives the middle finger to a crowd of hippies during a public speech in New York, USA, 1976. During the brutal 1994 genocide in Rwanda, a man is pictured asking for help from a passing car. The Spanish poet Federico Garcia Lorca is seen reading poetry in 1936, shortly before his execution. Participants are shown at the start of a combined race of dogs and women in the USA, 1927. Alcohol is being prepared for destruction during Prohibition in the USA, 1924. The Great Wall of China is regrettably referred to as the longest cemetery in the world, as thousands of people who died carrying enormous boulders during its construction are buried inside it. The car in which Al Capone's lawyer was killed in 1939. The lawyer had previously testified against the notorious gangster. William Harley and Arthur Davidson, founders of the motorcycle company, 1914. A Luftwaffe Obergefreiter hiding his face in shame after surrendering in Belgium, 1945. During the Apollo 17 mission in 1972, at the request of the astronauts, a patch of rough fabric was attached to the inside of the lunar spacesuit helmets so they could scratch their noses. This image shows crossbow arrows embedded in the skull of a man who fell during the battle for the Swedish city of Visby on Gotland Island in 1361. A tragic photo capturing the last moments of two Norwegian workers trapped on a burning wind turbine before they perished. A diver is pictured after inspecting the interior of the sunken battleship Arizona on the day of the Pearl Harbor attack, December 7, 1941. American pathologist Frederick Zugibe is shown conducting research experiments in 1984 to better understand the mechanics of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. A police officer waits patiently in a hospital waiting room in 1978, while a victim with a gunshot wound to the leg explains the incident. A woman in Budapest, 1937, wearing a special bandage intended to combat depression. Diarrhea was one of the leading causes of death during the U.S. Civil War. Soldiers from both sides adhered to an unwritten code of honor. One could not shoot an enemy soldier who was squatting to relieve himself. A comparison showing the real members of the Peaky Blinders gang alongside the actors who portrayed them. During a protest against racial integration in schools in the USA in 1959, a sign reads, "Race mixing is communism." In the 20th century, removing from friends involved a physical act. Many people who had fallen out with friends or relatives would simply cut their faces out of photographs. The Dancing Man, captured in a photo on August 15, 1945, in Sydney, Australia. The image shows a man dancing joyfully in the street after receiving the news that World War II had ended. On November 10, 1989, the day the Berlin Wall fell, East German officers appeared hesitant and afraid to shake hands with a resident from West Berlin. A photo from the 1950s illustrating the era when seatbelts were not yet mandatory in racing. In Kuwait, in 1955, a woman is seen carrying a sewing machine on her head, adapting the local method typically used by women in the region to transport water jugs. German soldiers testing the structural integrity of a gallows before proceeding with the execution of suspected Soviet partisans, 1941. A rescued German submariner exhibits the 1,000-yard stare while sitting on the deck of the Canadian frigate Swansea in 1944. In 1988, an Aloha Airlines flight experienced a catastrophic failure when the roof of the first-class cabin tore off at 7,800 meters. Although the pilot successfully executed an emergency landing, saving 94 of the 95 people, the flight attendant who was sucked out of the plane was never found. White teenagers protesting against racial integration in Montgomery, Alabama in 1963. An Inuit man warming his wife's feet in Greenland, 1880s. A freak show poster from 1890 claimed to show the fattest man in the world, though interestingly, in our time, this is a quite common physique.
Did this make you happy or maybe a little mad? Let me know your thoughts below. Stay tuned for the next exciting part. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Bye.